There's a trend that's emerged in recent years. A very strange trend. People are trying to look rich at all costs. If you were in the 80s, you could have solved this problem very cheaply. But how? Let me introduce you to the poor man's Ferrari. A car that keeps its promises both in looks and performance. This is the story of a despised, underestimated, affordable little sports car. If you're ready, let's give the intro.
The fun is back.
All stories began the same. In the early 80s, Japanese brands that made cheap, gas-efficient vehicles wanted to break this perception and dominate the American market with trending sports cars that are reliable and stylish. So the MR2 derived from a 1976 Toyota design project with the goal of a car which would be enjoyable to drive, yet still provide good fuel economy because of the 70s oil crisis, not necessarily a sports car in Toyota's mind. Design work began in 1979 when Akio Yoshida from Toyota's testing department started to evaluate alternatives for engine placement and drive method, finalizing a mid-transverse engine placement. Toyota called the 1981 prototype SA-X. From its original design, the car evolved into a sports car, and further prototypes were tested both in Japan and in the US. Significant testing was performed on race circuits including Willow Springs, where tested by none other than American Formula One driver Dan Gurney. Toyota debuted its finalized concept car SV3 in October 1983 at the Tokyo Motor Show, gathering press and audience publicity. The SV3 was developed primarily as a commuter car for the individual and not the family. If you had to commute with one or two people, why not have fun, right? The prototype was well enough thought out that very few changes were made before the production. Though Mr. 2 was a bit of a parts bin special. With the engine, some McPherson strut suspension components, and plenty of switchgear coming from beloved AE86 Corolla models, suspension tuning was widely reported to have been finalized at Lotus. It was also an excellent driver's car right from the start, and most importantly, reliable. Toyota introduced the first generation MR2 in 1984. At its introduction in 1984, the MR2 won the Car of the Year Japan. As Toyota engineered the MR2 to accommodate a 2-liter engine, its primary features included its light body, as low as 2,094 pounds in Japan and 2,350 pounds in the US, strong handling, and low-power small displacement engine. The car is often referred to as the AW11, referring to the chassis code of the most common 1.6-liter A-engined versions. The MR2's suspension and handling were designed by Toyota with the help of Lotus engineer Roger Becker. Toyota's cooperation with Lotus during the prototype phase can be seen, and it owes much to Lotus's sports cars of the 60s and 70s. Toyota employed the naturally aspirated 4AGE 1.6-liter inline-4 engine, borrowed from the AE86 series Corolla, giving the engine a maximum power output of 112 horsepower in the US, 128 in the UK, and 130 horsepower in Japan. Also in the home market, the AW10 base model was offered, which used the more economical 1.5-liter 3 AU engine rated at 82 horsepower. A 5-speed manual transmission was standard, with a 4-speed automatic available as an option. Road tests delivered 0-60 miles time, 8.4 seconds, and quarter-mile time 16 seconds, significantly faster than its rivals, 4-cylinder Pontiac Fiero or Fiat X1/9, and roughly equal with the modern Porsche 944. In 86-88 for the US market, Toyota introduced a supercharged engine for the MR2. Based on the same block and head, the 4A Jazz-E was equipped with a small supercharger. It produced 145 horsepower and accelerated the car from 0 to 60 miles in 6.5 seconds. The supercharger was belt-driven, but actuated by an electromagnetic clutch so that it would not be driven except when needed, increasing fuel economy. Curb weight increased to as much as 2,494 pounds for supercharged models, due to the weight of the supercharger equipment and a new, stronger transmission. A fuel selector switch was also added in some markets to allow the car to run on regular unleaded fuel if required. In addition to the new engine, the MR2 SC was also equipped with stiffer springs, and received special teardrop aluminum wheels. The engine cover had 2 raised vents, only one of which was functional, that visually distinguished it from the naturally aspirated models. It was also labeled Supercharger on the rear trunk and body moldings behind both doors. This model was never offered outside of the Japanese and North American markets, although some cars were privately imported to other countries. Before we move on to the second generation, there is a special model that we need to mention. Fast and out of Logic Group B days, Toyota's front-engine, rear-drive Celica proved dominance in the African Group B rallies of the 80s, but they were at a disadvantage on the twistier European stages. So, Toyota Team Europe started a rally project in 1985, codenamed 222D, based on the MR2, for competition in Group S and potentially Group B. Though somewhat similar on the outside, it is clear that the prototype had very little in common with the production car, although the two appear to share the same factory, AW11 floor pan. Little else is known about the project, as it never competed. With Group B cancelled in 1986, the proposed Group S regulations suffered the same fate. Although the 222D was still a prototype, it made it very far into development before Group B was cancelled. Of the rumoured 11 built, 8 were destroyed in testing, indicating Toyota was considering bringing the 222D to competition. However, the short wheelbase proved to be a challenge during testing, as the 222D also suffered from enormous turbo lag, but paired with the extremely short wheelbase made driving at speed almost impossible. Toyota Team Europe owner Ove Andersson describes, "You never knew what it was going to do." With such a short wheelbase and such power in such a light car, it could swap ends at any time and without any warning. We will touch upon the snap steer problem, which was also a big problem in the next generation. The remaining prototypes were reduced to museum pieces and private collections. Supposedly 11 prototypes were made, of which 8 were destroyed during testing, leaving only 3 known examples. 2 in black, 1 stored at Toyota Gazoo's facility in Cologne, and 1 sold to a private collector in 2017, 1 in white, with a 50 mm lengthened wheelbase and a more production-styled body located in Tokyo. During a surprise appearance at the 2006 Goodwood Festival of Speed, Toyota drove and displayed a black 222D. The race-ready car weighed around 1,650 pounds, and its transverse-mounted 4-cylinder turbocharged engine was reported to produce as much as 750 horsepower. The MR2 went through a redesign in 1989, though North America did not receive them until early 90 as 91 models. It was never in doubt that the MR2 would maintain its mid-engine layout and fun-to-drive nature for the second-generation model. The new car was larger, weighed 350 to 400 pounds more than its predecessor, due to having a more luxurious and spacious cabin, larger engine sizes, sturdier transaxle, and a more durable suspension setup. The overall design of the automobile received more rounded, streamlined styling, with some calling the MR2 a baby Ferrari, or poor man's Ferrari, due to design cues similar to the Ferrari 308 or Ferrari 348. Emster 2 not only looks like Ferrari but accelerate like one, with the standard car making 130 horsepower from a 2.2-liter 16-valve inline-4 borrowed from the Camry, while the MR2 Turbo made 200 horsepower with its 2-liter turbocharged 3 SGTE engine, as used in the rally-homologated Celica Turbo. Naturally aspirated models stuck with a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic, while all turbo models came with the 5-speed manual. Similar to the MK1, turbo models had raised engine lid vents and turbo badging on the rear of the car to distinguish them from the standard model. 0 to 60 miles were roughly 8 seconds for the naturally aspirated version and 5.8 seconds for the turbo. Revisions to the US market began for the 1993 model year, with all cars receiving suspension changes to dial out lift throttle oversteer, in other words, snap oversteer, which causes drivers inexperienced in mid-engine vehicle behavior to find themselves on the other side of the road. Turbos also received larger brakes, an optional limited slip differential, and were only available with the previously optional T-top roof style. For 1994, the naturally aspirated MR2s were bumped to 135 horsepower, and the taillights were restyled. In Japan, turbo engine development continued with these models, now making over 240 horsepower, but emissions requirements in the US didn't allow these changes. As if that wasn't enough, MR2 turbo sales ended in California emission states after 1994, and the MR2 was discontinued for the US market altogether for 1995, with 33,111 sold in the US and Canada. Production continued in Japan until 1997. Again, there was also a special edition called TRD 2000 GT. It would be more accurate to call it Body Kit. In '98, Toyota Racing Development offered an official kit body conversion and tuning program for MR2 owners to transform their car into a wide-body TRD 2000 GT replica car. This was to pay homage to the TRD 2000 GT wins in the GTC Japanese Racing Series, since the Racing Series cars were based on the SW20 floor pan. The body kit widened the MR2 by a total of 4 inches. Prior to MR2S being fitted with the body kit, TRD had its customers select which additional engine, suspension, wheel, and interior upgrades they wanted. For this reason, no two models are alike. It is rumored that at least one was built to produce up to 500 horsepower, whereas some others had few modifications to their engines. In order to ensure exclusivity, a high price tag was charged, and a total of just 35 factory car conversions were completed by Toyota. Each official converted car was made using lightweight fiberglass components such as front fenders, trunk lid extension, rear quarter panels, gas door front and rear bumpers, 3-piece wing, and reclassified as completely new cars with their own specially numbered TRD VIN plate riveted to the body to indicate their authenticity and rarity, apart from the cars listed on the TRD 2000 GT register. It is unknown how many original Toyota converted cars still exist today, but it is rumored that approximately 10 conversion kits were imported from Japan into the US. In many respects, the extended body can be compared to that of a Porsche 911 slant nose modification. The car's width is extended and body dimensions dramatically change the car's overall visuals. Very little is known about these cars outside Japan. European sales of the second generation MR2 continued into the new millennium, even though production of the car's long-awaited replacement began in October 1999. Clues to its altered focus were revealed as far back as 1995, with the MRJ concept shown at that year's Tokyo Motor Show. Many people were convinced the MRJ was the third generation MR2 in all but name, even predicting its on-sale date and even price tag. But Toyota surprised everybody with the debut of the MRS concept at the 1997 Tokyo Show. Technically, an indirect replacement for the second generation MR2, which had developed into a Grand Tourer. The concept was a roadster that Chief Engineer Tadashi Nakagawa commented would break the cycle of growth, referring to the habit of successive vehicle generations getting ever larger. Everything about the new car would be smaller. Overall proportions, engine size, power, curb weight, and price. It would also be much easier to produce, with all markets sharing a similar specification. Market anticipation was high that the next MR2 was going to be a pure, genuinely exciting sports car geared towards a new generation and new century. For the third iteration of the MR2, launched for the 2000 model year, Toyota went back to basics with the MR2 Spider. Offered only as a full convertible, the only engine available for the third gen was the all-aluminum alloy 1ZZFE, a 1.8-liter inline-4 engine. Like its predecessors, it used DOHC and 4 valves per cylinder. The intake camshaft timing was adjustable via the VVT-Y system. Unlike its predecessors, however, the engine was placed onto the car the other way round, with the exhaust manifold towards the rear of the car instead of towards the front. The maximum power of 138 horsepower and 126 pound-foot of torque was quite a drop from the previous generation. But thanks to the lightness of the car, it could still move quite quickly, accelerating from 0 to 60 miles in 6.8 seconds. Curb weight is 2,195 pounds. A 5-speed manual transmission was the only gearbox available until 2001, when a 5-speed sequential manual transmission offered automated shifting but lower performance. 0 to 60 miles times for the conventional manual were roughly 6.8 seconds, while it took SMT cars nearly 9 seconds. For 2002, the MR2 Spider was given a light refresh, with new seats, 16-inch staggered rear wheels, an extra gear for the SMT transmission, revised suspension tuning, and a new underbody brace for structural rigidity. Model year 2005 was the last for the MR2 Spider in the US, with cars being sold into 2006 in other markets. Just 27,941 MR2 Spiders were sold stateside, making it the rarest version of all MR2s.